Our stress response has two stages. The first stage happens in the brain. This is where an immediate sudden threat is processed. And this system that I'm going to describe to you works faster than our visual centers do. This is why you can jump out of the way of a car that you did not visually process was coming. So the axis here is where this happens on is called the HPA axis. It's the hypothalamus, adrenal, and pituitary little axis that goes on here. So our amygdala is a little part of our brain that's at the back, close to the brainstem. That is the most primitive, unevolved part of our brains. And it's really important to understand this when we talk about mental health. This thing in our brains is constantly on alert, looking to see if there's a threat. Now, 1,000 or 2 years ago, that was quite helpful. The couple times a year when either your village was invaded or a lion was chasing you. You are meant to have that flood of adrenaline that this reaction creates in the body to have superhuman strength, because what happens is blood flow is directed away from the rational part of the brain up here to the back of the brain and to our limbs so that we can think fast or run fast if we need to. This part of our brain is officially outdated because most of us don't live in that world where we really need that very often at all. So what also happens in that is when the blood flow is directed away from our rational brain, it's also directed away from our digestive system and our immune system. So our immune response is dampened and our digestion almost stops, our hunger goes away, our sex drive goes away, because what do those things matter if we might die in the next few seconds? Does that make sense? I can see some of you. Yeah, okay. So what's meant to happen is you're meant to, if you can see on the little chart here, the amygdala sends the message to the hypothalamus, which sends a message to the nervous system. The sympathetic side is the side that we move into when we're in a stress response. It's the gas pedal. Go, run, fight, flee. Sometimes we freeze, depending on the situation. Adrenaline gets released. What is supposed to happen is when the threat has passed, you've jumped out of the way of the car, you're now on the sidewalk, a stage called resistance comes in, and your body produces other neurotransmitters to calm your breath down, to reduce your blood pressure, to reduce your blood sugar, because there is a rush of sugar that also goes into the limbs in case you need to run fast, and then return to normal. So the problem when you end up in a chronic stress response, which is what this pandemic has been for so many of us, when it moves into a longer term stress response, it moves more into the body. So this is where the HPA axis really comes into play and your adrenals become more involved. And instead of releasing adrenaline, they switch to cortisol. It's like a longer burning fuel to keep you moving and in a place where you can defend yourself. Cortisol has an extreme dampening on the immune system. Because what good is the ability to fight off a virus or a bacteria if a lion is about to tear you apart? When we have a stress response during a pandemic and our body decides that we don't need our immune system because our amygdala is reading the threat as a lion, that's a problem. So this is what I mean when I say we have an outdated nervous system and a primitive brain situation going on. Because we evolved so quickly as a society with the industrialization, the technological age, we are on all the time. People are checking their emails at night. An angry email from a boss or a colleague, a fight with a loved one, all of some road rage that we either feel or we encounter from someone else, all of these things send us over into the sympathetic nervous system, into the stress response, and we have an overblown physiological response to what the reality actually is. Does that make sense? Okay.